Hey folks, Matthew Weiss here, WeissAdvice.com and WeissAdvice here on YouTube. In this video, I want to talk about one of the most overlooked aspects of music production and sound design, and that is texture. What's texture? Texture is all of the non-harmonic and semi-harmonic stuff that's happening within a music bed. So that can be distortion, that can be noise, that can be all sorts of things that don't necessarily have a musical purpose, but still have some kind of a pleasing sonic purpose going on. So what I want to do is play a little bit of this instrumental here. It's going to be the pre-chorus going into the chorus, and I just want to play it with no effects on, so everything is going to be bypassed, and then I'm going to play it again, and everything that I'm doing is meant to enhance texture. So I'm not doing anything to like unmask things or make things sound bigger or whatever it might be. It's all about just creating textural qualities to the sounds. All right, let's play it down. Cool. So now I'm going to put on my processing. Let's hear it again. So I want to point out that I haven't made the sound sonically bigger. Obviously, there's still some masking going on, particularly in the low end. You know, things could be a little bit more defined and sharper in the drums, stuff like that. That wasn't the goal here. The goal here was to make things sonically more interesting and pleasing. And so I want to go through some of these different effects and different ideas in terms of what I'm trying to do. So the first thing I want to do is start with some of these drums here. I'm going to start with the hat and the percussion. To me, these are already very textural sounds, so I don't really need to do anything to them. I could enhance certain bits of frequency, maybe bring out some clank in the hat, maybe bring out or enhance the sustain of the percussion, and just kind of enhance them in order to bring out more texture to the record. I think that would fit into what I'm doing, but I think it's also worth saying that, because these are already textural, not doing anything to them is fine. Now, the side stick, on the other hand here, it already has a good amount of texture in it. We have this kind of like kind of noise that's happening in the mids, and we have this sort of crunch that's going on. Now for this is just a really simple thing. The texture is already there, so I'm just using some EQ to bring it out. Right, and we hear all that hair and that hash start to come alive just by doing a pretty broad upper mid boost. So we can see we're going on a little domino effect here from like things that are already textural, things that have texture, and now I'm just enhancing the texture. And then we're going to start working our way toward things where we need to kind of invent the texture. So another really good example here would be this electric guitar. Has this very almost like springy kind of, both in terms of the reverb and in terms of like the rubberiness of the plucks, like almost like a surf rock kind of a quality going on. So same idea, except for here I'm really going to push it. I've kind of nailed that exact springiness with a resonance, and here I'm creating a resonant boost. A lot of the times we talk about resonant cuts because a lot of the times we don't want resonances. They're just things that kind of get in the way, but they can also make for really good textures. So here's the electric guitar with that resonant boost. And we get more of that sort of springy quality that's going on, that more almost metallic tone just coming out a little bit more. Another one real quick is this sound. All texture, the only thing I'm doing here is turning it up. right? So that's our easy stuff, and I wanted to point that out because it's really important to acknowledge what's there. We don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Now, I want to go to an interesting sound here. Let's go to this guitar. So this guitar does have some texture to it. We can hear the strings, right? The stringiness of it is texture, and that certainly counts. However, I want this to be a lot more textured because everything else, like we have these kind of crunched up filtered drums, we've got all these like weird mysterious pads. This is too clean for me. I need more texture in there. So I'm going to take the Retro-Fi here, and I'm going to do 3 bits of texture. I'm going to do first this kind of weird device distortion here. So I'm going to turn this up real quick. Let's, in fact, actually, let's do an A to B real quick, and let's go to Setup B and reset some things. So here is our weird kind of device convolution sound. So there's a whistly resonance, there's this crunchy mid-range, it's like there's harmonic quality to it, but there's so much non-harmonic quality and non-harmonic overtones that it becomes very, very textural. So all I need is a little bit of that, and suddenly we've already got a lot more personality going. Next, we've got a really interesting reverb. I'm using this spring reverb. It is not a good sounding reverb at all. It sounds terrible, but I'm going to turn it up so we can hear it. But very textured, again, so let's turn it back down and blend a little bit in. And then lastly, just some noise that's being ducked out or gated, triggered by the actual plucks. And so now we're getting something where bringing all this stuff together is just creating this really lo-fied, very textural thing. And I think the reason why lo-fi is so enjoyable is because of all of the texture that gets incorporated into the music. I think that's like the backbone of the whole genre, really. So, you know, bringing this lo-fi quality, lots of texture, suddenly becomes a much more interesting sound. Now, the last little step is just to add a little bit of low pass, well, I guess take away some high frequencies just by low passing some of it. And then ultimately wound up at these settings right here, before and after. So textured, more lo-fied, more personality. I'm missing a little bit of the string stuff that's happening, and I've also accidentally kind of carved out some of the fundamental mids by doing this. So now I'm just using this EQ to kind of replenish a little bit of the top and replenish a little bit of the low mids here at the fundamental frequency. By the way, adding this high shelf is not countering what was happening by using the low pass filter. Even though it seems counterintuitive to be like removing high end then putting high end back in, texturally it ends up being different. Texturally it ends up being different. And that's why sometimes it's worth doing a combination of both. Nice. So now we've got something that's sonically kind of living the same way, but it's way, way, way more textured. Before. After. And this process is really just repeating. So for example, in our main melody, we have this very smooth pad. Let's put a little vinyl crackle into it. Let's put a little bit of wow into it. texture. This piano hit. Let's cut out some of that bass and add some of that like really like plinky top texture. Now it has this kind of haunting icy quality, right? And so we keep going along these ideas, creating textures that make sense for the record that we're doing, and it starts adding up to personality. It starts becoming that X factor that makes something that's musically pretty straightforward into something that's actually really unique and something that's got a little bit more mojo going on to it. Last ones I'm going to take a look at real quick. This super deep bass. Here's an element that needs a lot of texture. It's almost pure sub. There's a little bit of something over there, but not much. So what am I going to do? First, distortion. That's going to give us some nice overtones for texture. And remember, that can also help the ear find the bass. We talked about that in a video earlier this week. And now I'm going to cut a ton of that sub, and I'm going to add that little region where those you know, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th partials start showing up. And that's going to really enhance the overall texture of it. Now there's almost this like grindy, menacing quality to it, which kind of fits everything that's going on in the overall record. All right, last one, last example. I'm basically just listing examples, but I'm thinking that maybe one of these or a few of these will spark some ideas in your mind when you're doing your production and be like, oh, cool, let me try and do this. This one's a really cool one. So this is from the writing session. This is the songwriter, Cadence. I'm just leaving her background vocals in this. But I kind of want to morph them into something that doesn't quite sound like a vocal. So I'm going to formant shift her voice all the way down and add a little bit of distortion. And suddenly all of this modulation in the reverb becomes like really exaggerated. So there's like this weird pitch fluctuation. And then there's this like really weird rounded mouth formant thing that's showing up. That's whoa, whoa, whoa. That has this like really unique quality to it. And then all of that reverb stuff I really like. So I'm going to compress it and bring that reverb out. There's even these like little weird space monkey sounds. There's like kind of noises. And all that stuff becomes part of the texture. And so overall, it has this more weird, kind of uncanny, quirky, slightly haunted quality to it. I've given it a personality, whereas before it was kind of just like a straightforward beat. It was good. It was definitely good, but it just felt like it was kind of cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but is it something that's special? A texture can be that thing that brings that extra little bit of personality, magic, mojo to a record that somehow now just gives it kind of its own unique identity. All right, gonna round it up here, wind it up here, wind down here. I'm ending the video. Yeah, okay. If you dig this video, hit that like button. If you want to catch more videos like this, hit subscribe with the bell notifications so you get notified. And lastly, you know what we say here at Weiss Advice. We are musicians, sound is our instrument, and I will catch you next time.